Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be over the 25 books that I want to read in 2025, and maybe at the end of the year we can come back to this and see if I actually kept up with my list. Hi, so like a week or two ago I made a list of the 25 books that I want to read in 2025, and I have some of these books like physically but not with me at the moment. I only have one physical book. I'm gonna put a picture of it of all of them basically, besides this one book that I have. But yeah, that's just what I want to insert here before we start. And I cheated a little bit, just a smidgen, because I put a series in here, and that's not cheating, they're individual books, but I put a series in here that takes up like 7 spaces, so we'll get to that. We're gonna divide this up into genre. We have 10 fantasy books, 3 fiction books, 4 horror/thrillers, and 2 romance books that we want to read this year. This list is in no particular order. We're starting off with fantasy, and my only physical book that I have. I wouldn't say this is my #1 top book that I want to read this year, but it's certainly at near the top. I have Jurassic Park. I'll tell you how this happened. So I was on TikTok one day, scrolling away, and then I saw something about the new Jurassic Park movie that's going to be coming out soon, this year I think actually, with Jonathan Bailey, and they were like, make it a horror movie, and I was like, that actually would be kind of interesting. And then people were talking about how the book is way different than the original movie, and that kind of like really sold me on this. And I just want to experience like a horror story with dinosaurs in it. I put this also in the fantasy section because it's fiction, fantasy, horror, so put this in whatever genre you want, but this is the one that I'm like really excited to read. And I just got this recently. It's like a really nice copy too. Yeah. Next on the list is Wicked. I saw Wicked the play, I saw Wicked the movie. I haven't read Wicked the book, so I feel like just to like kind of even that out, I'm going to read Wicked. I have Wicked, I've had it for years, and I just never picked it up. I heard the play was like inspired by the book, just not like this is the adaptation of the book into play. So I want to see what the book is about. I haven't heard much on the book, besides a few whisperings here and there, but I want to try it out. Maybe before Wicked Part 2 comes out, we can just read it together and see how see how the book differs from the movie, and see how we feel. The next book on my list is Scythe. Scythe is about a world who has kind of gone away with death, so no one can die unless a scythe kills them purposefully. So basically scythes are a group of people who are allowed to kill people, but at random. So there's no targeted, oh, you did this, so I'm gonna kill you, or you live longer than most. It's just like from what I understand, like a neutral way of preventing the world from being overpopulated. That scared me. And they basically have to kill a certain percentage of the population each year. I thought that sounded really interesting, and I really wanted to read that. I just don't have the book, so I wasn't, and I haven't bought it either, so I was like, okay, this is gonna be one book that I read in 2025 for sure. I'm pretty sure I'm going to, quote me on that. Write it down, quote me. Next on my list is Vicious. Vicious is about college roommates who together create superhuman abilities, and basically, I don't know if it's immediately, I haven't read it, but they become arch enemies, and I suppose it's exploring that dynamic as well as how they created superhumans in general. So that's book 1. And then also on my list is Vengeful, which is the second book in this duology, I believe. They are written by V.E. Schwab, which I'm actually really excited about because I rated The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue 5 stars when I read it. So I'm very excited to read something else by V.E. Schwab. I'm gonna try to keep my expectations at a medium level because I already rated one of the books by this author 5 stars. I'm just trying to like compartmentalize my, what's it called? Expectations. Then we have the 7-book series I was talking about, which is the Harry Potter series. I want to do a reread of Harry Potter. This would be my 2nd time reading them. I watched the movies, as everyone did, a whole bunch of times, but then 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I read the Harry Potter series for the first time. So that is something I feel like I'm definitely gonna do. Do not quote me on that. But I feel like it's something that I really want to do, and it's just like the nostalgia. It's the nostalgia for me. I love it. I want to read it again. That's all I have to say. Then the next one in my fantasy genre is Powerless, which I feel like everyone's heard of. So Powerless is about a girl with no powers, and she's in a society who has put forth a decree to basically kill everyone with no powers. They're called ordinaries. And they did this to preserve the elite society in this world. So she comes up with a way of pretending she has powers, but in a way that's believable. So the way she manages to kind of live in the society is by trying to blend in, but she was actually taught by her father to be overly observant, so she kind of uses this to her advantage and calls herself a sidekick. And then she gets thrown into these trials, which are meant to showcase the powers of the people in the game, the trial. And then I just want to read the second book of Fourth Wing, which is Iron Flame. And after that, I can't wait for this release. On March 18th, Sunrise on the Reaping comes out, and I will be sat. I don't know much about it besides that it revolves around the first quarter quell, which is Haymitch's games. Very excited. I love the Hunger Games. I wasn't a fan of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I love me Haymitch. I love me some Haymitch. I can't wait for this book, and I will be reading it no matter what, for sure. Another new release that comes out on August 26th is Calabasas by R.F. Kuang. So from what I could gather, this is about two academic rivals who have to go to hell to rescue their advisor. I'm quoting this from what I read it from. Getting there was easy, but coming back is a different story. I love mythology. I feel like it's going to be woven in there somehow. So I'm really excited about this book. R.F. Kuang, genius, lover. Hey, so really quickly, this is my last fantasy book. I just realized that I forgot to put one more book, so we originally have 24, so this makes it 25. But the last book in my fantasy section is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and it's about Emily who goes to this town to kind of write a whole book about all the different fairy types and things like that. And this is more of a like fantasy romance because she's there with her academic rival who is good at the things that she's not, which is talking to people and all this stuff. So they're in this town and he's good with the people, she's not really good with the people, but she's good and she's there for the fairies. And yeah, I thought it was really cute, a very like cottagecore cute little fantasy book that I wanted to give a try. I've heard some people talk about it, and when I needed to think of one more book, my mind went to this one. So this is also something else I want to try out. And yeah, let's move on. And that concludes our fantasy category. Now we're moving on to fiction. And the first book that I put in there is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So I've heard about how good this book is, but I never really heard anything that really said anything about the story. But I really want to get into dark academia, kind of like If We Were Villains kind of vibes. So The Secret History, in the most simplest terms, all that I know is that it's about a group of students in Vermont and kind of just a book about morality and I'm guessing a character study. But that is all I know, and that is what I'm gonna leave you with. Then we have Atonement, which was actually on the books that I want to read in 2024. Funny, isn't it? It's a historical fiction book that takes place in like 1935, and that is when our main character's 13-year-old sister witnesses a flirtation between her and the son of a servant, and that just in general brings about a crime. And obviously that crime brings about many aftershocks and affects everyone in the book. I really want to read this one. I said that last year, but I really do want to read it. We'll see if we get in the mood for it. Next, I want to read Emma by Jane Austen, which is just about a girl who plays matchmaker in her town. This is a classic. I want to get into classics this year. I do. I said this last year as well, but I want to do this. I wanna commit to this. I'm not gonna do it right now, right here. But when I read my first classic this year, I'm going to tell you that I'm gonna commit to this. And if you come back to this video, I'm confirming it right here. If you heard her say it, then I'm doubling down on that. She will commit to classics this year. Then we get into our horror/thriller category, and I have American Psycho and Dracula on this list. American Psycho is about Patrick Bateman, who is a wealthy, narcissistic investment banker who moonlights. He's a serial killer as well. That's also part of his personality, so let's group that all together. Wealthy, investment banker, narcissistic, red flag, serial killer. I mentioned Dracula, which I do want to read this year as well. Can I tell you something? I watched Nosferatu. Tell me why when I went to look up the description of Dracula, like fully, like I know it's about vampires, but I don't know what the story entailed. I read the description It is copy and paste Nosferatu. Nosferatu is inspired by Dracula, but it was also, when it was released in the 1920s, was a unauthorized adaptation of Dracula, which now I understand by reading only the summary on the back of Dracula. So I'll probably wait until later in the year to read Dracula, just because I'm like fresh off of Nosferatu. I just want a little bit of a break, not to remember all of the story details in case there is an overlap of some sort. Then also on the list we have The Handmaid's Secret, which is the second book of The Housemaid. I recently read The Housemaid and I thought it was a really good thriller, so I want to get into the second book and see, because from the ending of the first book I wasn't really a fan because I thought it could have ended there. So I'm really interested to see what the second book holds and if it was worth spinning a trilogy out of this. It's something I feel like I'm going to cover really soon because I'm so fresh off The Housemaid. I just want to continue that streak and like maybe wrap up the series really soon. The last book in this genre category is The Naturals. I'm going to be honest with you. I like the cover, which is why I wanted to read it. And I didn't want to read too much into the summary of this, but I believe it's like a murder mystery whodunit situation. Our final category for today is the romance genre. I have 2 books in this category, the first one being The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I heard a lot about that book this holiday season, and it is a murder mystery romance book. I heard it compared to Knives Out. So this is about Ethan and Maggie, who were invited by a very well-known author to a Christmas party in the woods, and she vanishes from a locked room and they have no way of getting out of the house because they're snowed in. So it becomes a murder mystery, or I guess finding this author. But I'm very interested in this one because it's a murder mystery and it's a romance, and murder mysteries actually do keep me very much, I feel like it's a fast read and it's really interesting and I always want to keep reading. So I'm very interested about that one. Maybe I'll read it, I don't know when I'll read it. I could really read it anytime, but I feel like since it's holiday themed, I should read it in like November, December, but that's in another like 11 months from now, and I don't know if I want to wait that long, but we'll see how that goes. And the last book on our list is Beach Read. I've read all except 2 of Emily Henry's books, which are Beach Read and Happy Place. Beach Read is the one I'm most interested in because that one is the one I feel people talk most highly about. And as of right now, only one of her books for me was a 5-star, and the 2 other ones I really didn't vibe with. So I'm actually very interested in Beach Read. I'm going to try to keep my expectations to a normal amount because I feel like the hype with this book is really real, and that can kind of like hinder your experience when things don't work out the way you want them to, and you get more disappointed on top of that because you thought it was going to be a highly rated book. So this whole year I'm going to adjust my expectations accordingly. But that concludes the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. I'm really excited for this year. I plan on reading a lot more, and this year, yesterday actually, I finally caved in and listened to an audiobook. And that is because the book that I was reading I wasn't really interested in and I wanted to move on from it, but I was like, might as well check out the audiobook. I listened to 14 chapters in a day. I finished it after 2 weeks of not reading, and I was like, yeah, listen to it all day. So we'll be checking out my DNFs from the past few years so we can finish those and finally put them up on the shelf and be done with it, because I have a lot of DNFs and I wasn't really in the mood to read them. Like right now, I'm not really in the mood to read any of the DNF books that I had. They're always like soft DNFs because I don't plan on never going back to them, because I feel like if I buy a book, if I spend my money, I'm gonna read it all the way through. Even if I like DNF it now, I'm gonna come back to it. But audiobooks are my secret weapon this year. I know I'm late to the party. I'm very late to the party, but I'm excited about that. Yeah. That concludes our video for today. I hope you liked it. If you did, maybe check out a few of my other videos. And if you want to keep up with me, all my socials are linked down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye.